A cold, lifeless wedding, held in a crumbling old church on the outskirts of the city. The young bride stood silently before the altar, wrapped in an oversized wedding dress, faded, wrinkled, and falling off her shoulders. Her hands trembled around a withered bouquet, and her eyes, empty and distant, fixed on the man walking toward her, her groom. But as he drew closer, her entire body froze. His face was a walking nightmare, scarred beyond recognition, one eye drooping unnaturally, a twisted nose, and skin that looked like it had been melted by fire. His back hunched, his suit threadbare and torn, his voice, when he rasped a hoarse greeting, scratched like broken glass. She gasped and covered her mouth in horror, fighting the urge to scream. Down below, among the handful of guests, her stepsisters, Sharon and Kiara, were practically in tears from laughing. "Oh my God, look at his face," Sharon wheezed, gripping Kiara's arm. "She's really marrying a monster." Kiara snorted, pretending to gag. "They're a perfect match," Sharon sneered. "A charity case orphan and a walking freak." What did I do to deserve this? What sin did I commit to be punished like this? The question rang through her mind, over and over again, like a cruel melody with no end. And that's just the beginning. If this story caught your heart, even just for a second, don't forget to like, comment your thoughts below, and subscribe for more. What would you do if you were in Erica's shoes? I promise, it's only going to get more intense from here. Hit that notification bell and join me for the rest of this unbelievable journey. You're nothing but a leech, Erica, and you'll never be one of us. Sharon's voice sliced through the humid Atlanta air, her words sharp as a blade, flung at Erica as she knelt scrubbing the kitchen floor. The 17-year-old froze, her hands trembling around the rag, soap suds dripping onto the cracked linoleum. Kiara, leaning against the counter, snickered, her eyes glinting with cruel delight. The house, once a haven of warmth, now felt like a cage, and Erica was its most unwanted prisoner. In the heart of Atlanta, Georgia, where the summer sun baked the streets and the smell of magnolias lingered, Erica's life had unraveled. She was just 6 when Michelle and Obasi, a kind-hearted black couple, took her in. An orphan with no memory of her birth parents, Erica had arrived with a tattered backpack and a heart heavy with fear. Obasi, with his broad smile and gentle hands, called her "my little darlin'," tucking her in at night with stories of far-off places. Michelle, soft-spoken and patient, taught her how to knead cornbread dough, fold laundry just right, and stitch a hem so neat it could pass for store-bought. In those early years, their modest home on Peach Street was a sanctuary, filled with laughter and the sizzle of fried chicken on Sunday afternoons. Erica learned to call them Daddy and Mommy, words that felt like a warm blanket around her soul. But that was before the twins came. Sharon and Kiara, born when Erica was 9, changed everything. At first, Erica was thrilled, imagining herself as a big sister, helping with bottles and braiding tiny pigtails. She'd sit by Michelle's side, watching the babies kick, dreaming of family picnics. But Michelle's attention shifted, consumed by the twins' cries and needs. Obasi, working longer hours at the factory to provide, was rarely home. Erica, once the apple of their eye, found herself pushed to the edges, her presence barely noticed. She'd linger at the dinner table, hoping for a kind word, but Michelle's tired eyes would pass over her, fixed on Sharon's chatter or Kiara's giggles. Then came the day that shattered it all. Erica was 12 when the knock came at the door, heavy and ominous. 2 policemen stood there, hats in hand, their faces grim. "Ma'am, there's been an accident," one said. "Your husband, he didn't make it." Michelle's scream tore through the house, a sound so raw it seemed to shake the walls. Erica ran to her, confused, heart pounding. "Mommy, what's wrong? Where's Daddy?" Michelle, clutching the door frame, didn't answer, her sobs drowning out the world. Obasi, the man who'd made Erica feel safe, was gone, killed in a car crash on his way home from work. The warmth of the house bled out that day, leaving only a cold, hollow shell. Michelle changed after that. Grief carved deep lines into her face, and her once gentle voice turned sharp. Erica, desperate to hold on to the family she loved, took on every chore, scrubbing floors, washing dishes, ironing clothes, hoping to ease Michelle's burden. But it was never enough. Sharon and Kiara, now spoiled and demanding, treated her like a servant. "Get me some water, Erica," Sharon would snap, barely looking up from her phone. Kiara, twirling her hair, would add, "And hurry up, we ain't got all day." Erica bit her lip, swallowing the hurt, and obeyed, clinging to the hope that things might go back to how they were. Years passed, and the twins grew meaner, their cruelty sharpened by a discovery that turned Erica's world upside down. One rainy afternoon, while rummaging through old boxes for a school project, Sharon found a yellowed document tucked in a folder. "What's this?" she muttered, holding it up. Kiara snatched it, her eyes widening. "Adoption papers? Erica's not our real sister?" The words hit like a punch to the gut when Erica overheard them later that night. At dinner, Sharon slammed the paper on the table, her voice dripping with venom. "Explain this, Mother." Michelle's hands shook as she picked it up, her face paling. "It's true," she said quietly. "Erica was adopted before you two were born. Your daddy loved her like his own." Erica's chest tightened, the truth a heavy weight. She'd always felt different, but knowing it, hearing it, cut deeper than she'd imagined. From that moment, Sharon and Kiara's taunts grew vicious. "You're just a charity case," Sharon sneered one morning, tossing Erica's worn sneakers across the room. "Think you're part of this family? You're nothing but a freeloader." Kiara laughed, kicking over a bucket of soapy water Erica was using to mop. "Oops, guess you gotta start over, servant girl." Michelle, sitting nearby, said nothing, her silence a betrayal worse than the twins' words. Erica's heart ached, but she kept working, cooking their meals, scrubbing their stains, folding their clothes, hoping for a scrap of kindness that never came. Her meals were scraps from their plates, her bed a thin mattress in the dusty storage room. One sweltering afternoon, Michelle handed Erica a few crumpled dollar bills. "Go to the market and get everything on this list," she said, her tone flat. "Don't mess it up or you're not eating for a week." Erica nodded, tucking the money into her pocket, her stomach already growling. She stepped outside to fetch a bucket for laundry, but when she returned, the money was gone. Panic surged through her. She searched frantically, under the table, behind the couch. Nothing. Sharon and Kiara sauntered in, smirking. "Looking for something, Cinderella?" Sharon teased, tossing a peeled orange slice into her mouth like a queen throwing scraps to the poor. "Did your fairy godmother steal your little treasure?" Erica stood frozen, her throat tightening. "The money, Mommy's money, it was right here." Kiara gasped, eyes wide with theatrical horror. "Wait, you lost it? Oh no, Then she turned sharply, her face twisting into a smirk. "You're so dumb, it's honestly impressive." Sharon circled her like a predator, arms folded. "You really are pathetic. Can't even keep track of a few dirty dollars. What are you, 5? I didn't lose it. I just went outside." Erica's voice cracked, desperate. Kiara cut her off, stepping right up to her face. "Yeah? And what? A magical breeze flew in and snatched it up? Or maybe, just maybe, a sneaky little orphan thought she'd buy herself some candy?" Sharon sneered. "Or maybe she planned it. You know how these charity cases are. Take, take, take. That's what Mommy always says." "You should just confess," Kiara added, her voice now a whisper laced with venom. "Before Mommy gets home. Maybe she'll only slap you once this time." They both burst out laughing as Erica stood still, frozen in fear and fury, her fists clenched, her heart sinking. She knew exactly what had happened, but proving it was another matter. And Michelle would never believe her. Sharon suddenly stopped laughing and exchanged a quick, wicked glance with Kiara. "Let's go tell Mommy," she whispered with a grin. "Time for the show." Kiara smirked. "Yeah, let's make it believable. Add some tears. You know how she loves the drama." The two of them spun on their heels and dashed down the hallway, putting on their best worried daughter faces. As they reached Michelle's bedroom, Sharon flung the door open without knocking. "Mommy!" she cried, breathless and wide-eyed. "It's Erica! She lost your money!" Michelle, who was folding laundry, looked up sharply. "What money?" "The one you gave her to go to the market!" Kiara jumped in, voice rising. "She said she left it somewhere and now it's gone! She was crying and everything!" Sharon nodded quickly, voice trembling just enough to seem sincere. "We tried to help her find it, but I think she dropped it or something. Or maybe she spent it. We don't know, but she's acting super nervous." When Michelle stormed in, her eyes blazed with fury. "Where's my money, Erica?" she barked, her voice like a whip crack. I don't know," Erica whispered, her voice trembling as tears welled up. "I swear, I left it right there on the table." Before she could say another word, Michelle's hand lashed across her cheek with a sharp slap that sent Erica stumbling back. "You little liar!" she screamed. "Are you calling me a fool? You think I'm stupid enough to believe your pathetic stories?" Sharon stepped forward, arms folded, a smirk on her lips. "Maybe she took the money and hid it. You know how sneaky orphans can be." Kiara chimed in, her voice dripping with false innocence. "Yeah, Mommy. She always acts so innocent, but she's probably been stealing from us this whole time. She's not even family." Michelle turned to them, eyes narrowing. "You girls didn't see anything?" Sharon shook her head with exaggerated sweetness. "No, Mommy, but I did see her looking at your purse earlier." Kiara added quickly, "And didn't Daddy always say you can never fully trust people who aren't blood? Maybe he was right." Michelle spun back toward Erica, her face twisted with rage. "You ungrateful little parasite," she spat. "We took you in when no one else wanted you. A filthy little orphan with nothing. And this is how you repay us? Stealing from the hand that feeds you?" Erica's lips quivered. "I didn't—" "Shut your mouth!" Michelle roared. "You don't get to speak. You think just because we gave you a roof, you're one of us? You'll never be. You'll always be that pitiful, unwanted stray we picked up out of pity." Sharon and Kiara stood behind their mother, nodding with satisfaction, as if they were watching justice unfold. "No food for a week," Michelle snapped. "Let's see how well you survive without handouts. Maybe it's time you remember your place in this house and in this world." Erica stood frozen, her cheek burning, her heart breaking, as the three of them turned and walked away, leaving her in silence and shame. Erica's knees buckled, but she didn't argue. What was the point? She knew Sharon and Kiara had taken the money. She'd seen the glint in their eyes, but Michelle would never believe her. "If you don't like it, you can leave this house," Michelle shouted as Erica retreated to the storage room. Alone, she sank onto her mattress, the walls closing in. The family she'd once loved had turned their backs, leaving her to drown in their cruelty. Yet, deep inside, a flicker of hope burned. She wouldn't stay broken forever. Someday, somehow, she'd find a way out. Life in the Peach Street house had only grown bleaker since that awful day when Michelle's slap burned her cheek and starvation became her punishment for a crime she didn't commit. Sharon and Kiara, now 18 and full of spite, had turned their taunts into a daily ritual, each barb sharper than the last. They'd knock over her laundry, spill juice on the floors she'd just mopped, and laugh as she scrambled to fix their messes. "Look at her, Kiara, scurrying like a rat," Sharon would say, her voice dripping with mockery as she flicked cigarette ash onto the counter. Kiara, never one to be outdone, would add, "Yeah, better keep this place spotless, or Mommy'll kick you to the curb where you belong." Erica bit her tongue, her hands trembling as she worked, knowing any protest would only bring more punishment. Michelle, once her loving mommy, now treated her like a ghost, her eyes cold and distant, her words reserved for praising her real daughters. Erica's days were a blur of chores, cooking, scrubbing, folding, her existence reduced to that of a servant in the house that had once been her sanctuary. Her meals were scraps, whatever the twins left behind, and her nights were spent on a lumpy mattress in the storage room, surrounded by dusty boxes and the faint smell of mildew. Yet, despite the weight of it all, Erica's beauty had blossomed with age. Her smooth, deep brown skin glowed even under the strain of her life, her eyes sharp and soulful, her figure graceful despite the worn clothes she wore. The young men in their Atlanta neighborhood noticed, their heads turning whenever she walked to the market or carried laundry to the backyard. Whispers followed her, kind words from corner store clerks, shy smiles from boys at the bus stop, but Erica barely noticed. Her mind was too full of survival, too heavy with the pain of being unwanted in her own home. Among those drawn to her was Jamal, a handsome mechanic who'd recently moved to the neighborhood. With his easy smile and broad shoulders, he was the talk of the town, especially among Sharon and Kiara. The twins fawned over him, giggling and batting their eyes whenever he passed by, their voices syrupy sweet as they called out, "Hey Jamal, you working on that car today?" Or, "You should come to our barbecue, handsome." They'd spend evenings in their room, whispering about him, each claiming he'd choose her. "He looked at me longer today," Sharon would boast, tossing her hair. "No way, he's mine," Kiara would snap back, their arguments spilling into the night. Erica, overhearing their chatter as she scrubbed pots in the kitchen, paid it no mind. Jamal was just another face in a world that had taught her to keep her head down. But Jamal saw her. Every time Erica stepped out, to fetch water or hang clothes, he'd find a reason to be nearby, his warm voice cutting through her haze. "Need a hand with that bucket, Erica?" he'd ask, his smile kind but persistent. She'd shake her head, mumbling, "I'm fine," and hurry away, her heart racing not from attraction, but from fear of drawing attention. The twins noticed, though, and their jealousy flared like a wildfire. One evening, as Erica returned from the market, Jamal jogged up, ignoring Sharon and Kiara's flirtatious waves from the porch. "Erica, hold up," he called, his voice gentle. "I was thinking, maybe we could grab a coffee sometime?" Sharon's face twisted, her eyes narrowing as Kiara hissed, "What's he doing talking to her?" Erica, flustered, muttered, I'm busy," and slipped inside, but the damage was done. That night, the twins' whispers turned furious. "He's supposed to be mine," Sharon spat, pacing their bedroom. "She's stealing him, that little nobody." Kiara, clutching a pillow, growled, "We can't let her win. She's nothing, and he's ours." That night, they overheard Jamal at the corner store, laughing with a friend about how he planned to ask his father to speak to Michelle about marrying Erica. "She's different," he said, his voice soft. "Real, you know?" Sharon and Kiara stormed home, their faces flushed with rage. "Mommy, you can't let this happen," Sharon wailed, flopping onto the couch. "Jamal's mine. If he marries Erica, I'll die." Kiara clutched her chest dramatically. "He's my soulmate, Mommy! She's stealing him!" Michelle, sipping her coffee, barely looked up. "Don't you girls worry," she said, her tone icy. "I'll handle it." Michelle, ever indulgent of her twins, patted their heads, her face hardening. The next day, when Jamal's father, a kind-eyed man in a neat suit, arrived at the house, Michelle greeted him with a sugary smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Mr. Thompson, so good to see you," she said, ushering him to the porch. Before he could mention Jamal's intentions, she leaned in, her voice low and regretful. "I hate to tell you, but Erica's already engaged. A nice young man, Chike, a security guard. They're set to marry soon." Mr. Thompson's face fell, confusion clouding his eyes. "Engaged? Jamal never mentioned—" Michelle sighed, feigning sympathy. She probably didn't want to hurt his feelings. "I just thought you should know." He nodded slowly, thanked her, and left. His shoulders slumped. Inside, Sharon and Kiara stifled giggles, their plan working perfectly. That evening, Michelle called Erica into the living room, her voice cold as ice. "Erica, sit down. I've made a decision. You're marrying Chike, a night security guard. He's a good man, and it's time you settled down." Erica's heart stopped, her breath catching. "Marry? Mommy, I don't even know him." Sharon, perched on the armrest, laughed cruelly. "Oh, come on. A deformed, broke nobody like him? It's perfect for you." Kiara clapped, her eyes gleaming. "Yeah, you'll be stuck with that loser forever." Erica's eyes filled with tears, her voice trembling. "Please, Mommy, don't make me do this. I'm begging you." Michelle's face didn't soften. "It's this or the streets. You choose." When Erica hesitated, Michelle's voice turned venomous. "You ungrateful girl, after all we've done. Get to your room, now!" Sharon and Kiara grabbed her arms, dragging her to the storage room and locking the door. "No running away, princess," Sharon sneered through the keyhole. "You're done for," Kiara added, their laughter echoing as Erica sank to the floor, sobbing. The wedding day came too fast, too brutal. A grim affair held at a crumbling church on the far edge of town, where even hope seemed to avoid the doors. Gray clouds hung low like a bad omen, and the air smelled of mildew and regret. Erica stood at the altar in a borrowed white dress, 2 sizes too big, sagging at the shoulders and pooling at her feet. The lace was yellowed, the veil torn at the edge. Her hands trembled as she clutched the wilted bouquet someone had tossed at her at the last minute. Every breath felt like it scraped her lungs. Then the doors creaked open. Chike entered. Gasps rippled through the tiny crowd. His face was a grotesque patchwork of thick, uneven scars, some red and raised, others pale and sunken. One eye drooped slightly beneath a heavy brow, while the other seemed too alert. His nose looked broken in more than one place, and his mouth sat lopsided under a thin mustache. His voice, when he rasped, "Hello," sounded like something torn through gravel. He walked with a heavy limp, shoulders hunched under a threadbare gray suit that looked older than the building. Erica's blood turned to ice. Her breath hitched. She took a small step back. Her knees wobbled. Her mind screamed, "No, this can't be real." The guests whispered behind cupped hands. Some laughed. Others simply looked away, unable to hide their disgust. But none stepped forward to stop it. At the back, Sharon and Kiara stood arm in arm, faces twisted with gleeful cruelty. Sharon leaned in and hissed, "Mommy was right. He's the ugliest man alive." Kiara chuckled, her voice cutting through the church like a blade. "And look at her, frozen like a statue. She's marrying a monster." They both burst into laughter. Erica heard it all. Their words stabbed deeper than knives. Michelle stood nearby, arms folded, her lips pressed into a thin, satisfied line. "Now she knows her place," she muttered under her breath. Erica wanted to run. Her heart pounded so loud it drowned out the priest's voice. Her vision blurred with fear and humiliation. She couldn't even look at Chick's face without wanting to cry. He extended a scarred hand toward her. It shook slightly. She hesitated. The entire church was watching, and there was no one coming to save her. Her heart pounded like a warning drum in her chest, but her legs wouldn't move. She knew there was no turning back, no escape, no one coming to rescue her. Slowly, painfully, her eyes shifted, past the guests, past the priest, and landed on Michelle. Michelle stood near the back of the church, arms crossed, lips curled into a faint, cruel smile. Her eyes glinted with icy satisfaction, a silent triumph. To her, this wasn't just a wedding. It was punishment delivered, justice served. Her message was clear. Know your place. Erica's chest heaved, her breathing shallow. She stared at the woman who once called herself Mommy, the same woman who now stood and watched her like a discarded burden being auctioned off. Her lips didn't move, but her eyes spoke volumes. "You did this to me. You'll regret it." For one brief second, Michelle's smirk faltered. Erica turned back to Chaiki. Her trembling hand reached out, not in love, not in hope, but in surrender. She took his hand, feeling the roughness of his skin, the weight of her new prison closing in around her. And then, finally, the tears came. Not soft or graceful, but heavy, silent sobs that shook her shoulders as she held on. She wasn't crying for the man beside her. She was crying for herself, for the girl who once believed she was loved, for the child who had no family, for the woman now shackled to a life she never chose. In that moment, as the priest began to speak, no one saw a bride. They saw a girl breaking. After wedding, Chicky led Erica to his home, a dilapidated mobile home on the outskirts of Atlanta, its walls stained, its roof sagging, no air conditioning to ease the stifling heat. Erica's stomach churned as she stepped inside, the reality of her new life sinking in. This was no home. It was a prison, worse than the storage room she'd left behind. She sat on a creaky chair, staring at the peeling wallpaper, her dreams of escape fading. Chaik, sensing her despair, set a plate of simple stew before her. "Eat," he said softly, his raspy voice oddly gentle. "You need your strength." Erica pushed the plate away, her voice barely a whisper. "Why are you doing this? You don't even know me." Chaik's scarred face softened, his eyes kind despite their roughness. "I know you're hurting. I'll keep you safe, I promise." She didn't believe him, but his actions, cooking for her, offering her the only blanket, asking about her day, were so unlike the cruelty she'd known that she began to wonder, could there be more to this man than his broken exterior? Weeks passed, and Chaik's kindness stood in stark contrast to his grim appearance. He'd fix leaks in the roof without being asked, wake up early to heat water for Erica's bath, and cook warm meals even when the pantry was nearly empty. Every night, he'd light a candle by the small window, just so the house felt less dark, less like a cage, more like a home. He never raised his voice, not once. Even when Erica lashed out in frustration, snapping at him with the bitterness still festering inside her, Chike only responded with patience. "I know you didn't choose this," he'd say softly, "but I'll never stop choosing to be gentle with you." He called her my wife with such quiet reverence, not to claim her, but to honor her, like the title meant something sacred. On rainy nights, when thunder rolled through the thin walls, he'd place a second pillow under her head, tuck the blanket closer around her shoulders, then sleep on the floor so she could have the bed to herself. At first, Erica remained distant, cold, but each act of kindness chipped away at the fortress around her heart. She began noticing the way he never looked at her with judgment, the way he laughed softly when she complained about her day, the way his scarred hands handled things and people so gently. One evening, while folding laundry together, he told her a story about how he used to get in trouble for sneaking into his neighbor's yard to pick mangoes. Erica laughed for the first time in weeks, a real laugh, light and unguarded. She caught herself afterward, startled. Chike just smiled. A warmth crept into her chest. He still looked like a stranger in the mirror, but inside, he was becoming something familiar. Safe. Something she had never really had before. And she was beginning to wonder if maybe there was more to love than appearances, more to safety than walls, and more to this man than she ever thought possible. And so, life went on. Quiet, even strangely peaceful. Days blurred into weeks, and the routine became almost comforting. Erica would wake to the smell of breakfast already on the stove, the soft hum of Chaiki sweeping the front steps, or sometimes the sound of him humming an old folk song in a low, gravelly voice. They began talking more, about music, food, dreams they'd given up on. She still kept her guard, but something about him, his gentleness, his steady presence, made her heart ache in a way she hadn't felt in years. It was almost too good. And that's when the cracks began to show. Little things. At first, harmless. A sleek wristwatch left out on the kitchen counter. Definitely too expensive for someone broke. The day she found a box of imported cologne, still sealed in its original packaging, hidden beneath a pile of old clothes. Or how his phone, the one he claimed barely worked, suddenly rang one night in a language she didn't recognize, and he stepped outside to answer it with an urgency she hadn't seen before. Then, there were the clothes. Each week, he seemed to have something newer, cleaner, a crisp white shirt here, polished shoes there, all out of place in their dusty, crumbling house. And the money. He never gave her much, always said things were tight. But once, when he was out, Erica found a receipt tucked in his jacket, a bank deposit slip with a number so large it made her knees go weak. She started watching him more closely. When he left the house, where did he really go? Why did he always say business, but never explain what kind? Why did he lock that one drawer in the back room? Why did he keep 2 different phones? One night she asked him directly, "Chaik, where do you go when you're gone so long?" He just smiled and kissed her forehead. "Nothing important," he said, "just trying to make ends meet." But his eyes, kind as ever, didn't match his words anymore. Something was off, and once that feeling planted itself in Erica's chest, it never left. The peace she had begun to believe in started to feel like a beautifully painted lie. One afternoon, while washing his old jacket, Erica found a bank card tucked in a pocket. Her hands shook as she saw the balance, millions of dollars. Her heart raced. "Chike, what is this?" she demanded, holding up the card. He chuckled, his scarred face creasing. "Just some old savings, don't worry." His casual tone didn't match the truth staring her in the face, and doubt crept into her mind. Late one night, unable to sleep, Erica overheard Cheeky on the phone, his voice low but clear. "She doesn't know who I am yet. When the time's right, I'll tell her. She's got a good heart, I'm sure of it." Erica's breath caught, her mind spinning. Who was he? Why was he hiding? Driven by a mix of fear and curiosity, she began watching him closer, noticing the way he carried himself, confident, not broken, and the expensive watch he hid under his sleeve. A quiet search online, using a neighbor's borrowed laptop, revealed the truth. Chike was no security guard. He was the CEO of Eastwood Holdings, a Florida real estate empire worth millions. Fury boiled inside her. She confronted him that evening, her voice shaking with betrayal. "Who are you, Chikey? Tell me the truth." He sighed, stepping into the dim light of their tiny kitchen. As he straightened, his hunched posture vanished. His scars, prosthetics she realized, fell away, revealing a tall, handsome man with smooth skin and piercing eyes. "I'm Chikey Eastwood," he said, his voice no longer raspy but rich and steady. "I hid who I was to test you, Erica, to see if you'd stay true, even with nothing." Erica's knees buckled, her heart torn between rage and hurt. "You lied to me," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "You played with my life like it was a game." Chikey reached for her, but she pulled away. "I wanted to know you, the real you," he said, his voice heavy with regret. "I'm sorry it hurt you." "You think my heart's some kind of toy you can toss around?" Erica's voice cracked, raw with pain, her chest heaving as she stood in the cramped trailer kitchen. The single bulb above her flickered like it, too, couldn't withstand the tension in the air. Her tears shimmered, but her eyes were hard, betrayed, blazing. "You lied to me every single day. You let me believe I was trapped with someone I didn't choose, someone I had to settle for just to survive." Cheeky, now without the scars and the stoop, no longer a humble, broken man, stood tall in the dim light. A stranger in expensive clothes, with clean skin, sharp cheekbones, and the kind of quiet power Erica had never seen before. But his eyes, still those same soft, sorrowful eyes, begged her to hear him. "I did it for you, Erica." She laughed bitterly. Don't you dare say this was for me. This was control. This was manipulation. Please." He stepped closer. "Don't touch me," she snapped, recoiling. "You made me trust you. I started to care about you. I defended you. And all this time, you were watching me like some kind of twisted project." Cheeky flinched. "You don't understand." "Then make me understand," she screamed, her voice breaking into a sob. "Because right now, all I see is another person who used me." There was silence, thick, sharp, unrelenting. Erica grabbed her coat from the chair and stormed out the trailer door into the humid Georgia night, her boots crunching over gravel as she moved fast down the dark, empty road. "Erica!" Chike bolted after her, breathless, desperate. "Please wait!" But she didn't stop. Not until he shouted something that froze her blood cold. "Your father saved my life!" She stopped mid-step, her breath caught. Chike's voice trembled now, no longer calm, just broken. "I was 10. The car flipped on I-75. It was raining. My mom, she didn't make it. I was trapped in the back seat, screaming. The fire was spreading. No one stopped. No one. Except him." Erica turned slowly. Chike's eyes glistened. "Your dad pulled me out of that car. He climbed in, cut the seatbelt, dragged me out while the flames were already licking the doors. I was crying, sobbing, and he just looked at me and said, 'Take care of Erica.' Then the fire took him before anyone could reach him." Her lips parted. "No, that's not possible." "I never forgot his face," Cheeky whispered. "And when I saw yours, I knew. I knew who you were. I stayed close. I watched. I saw what your mother and sisters were doing to you, and I couldn't take it anymore." Erica staggered back, the world tilting around her. "So this whole thing, the marriage, the disguise, was the only way I could make them let you go. If I showed up rich and powerful, they would have tightened their grip. But as a disfigured poor man, they were thrilled to throw you away." He stepped closer now, voice softer. "I didn't do this to trap you. I did it to set you free." Erica looked at him, her whole body trembling. The night was silent now, even the crickets stilled. "I thought I was losing everything," she whispered. "But all along, you were the only one trying to give me something real." Chike's voice broke. "I only ever wanted to protect you, just like he did." Erica didn't speak. She didn't move, but for the first time, she no longer looked at him like a stranger. The days after Cheeky's revelation dragged on, each one heavier than the last. Erica moved through the trailer like a ghost, washing dishes, folding clothes, her hands busy, but her mind a storm of hurt and confusion. She'd married a lie, a man who'd disguised himself to test her, as if her life hadn't already been one long trial. Every time she looked at Chike, his now handsome face, his polished shoes, the faint scent of cologne that didn't belong in their run-down home, her chest tightened with a mix of fury and sorrow. She'd endured Michelle's coldness, Sharon and Kiara's cruelty, only to find herself trapped again, this time by a man who'd played with her trust like it was a game of cards. Yet, even in her anger, memories crept in. Chike's gentle hands offering her a blanket on chilly nights, his quiet questions about her day, the way he'd hum old gospel tunes while cooking her dinner. Those moments had felt real, hadn't they? Chike, for his part, gave her space, his usual chatter replaced by a careful quiet. He'd come home from his mysterious outings, set the table for two, and eat in silence when she refused to join him. One rainy evening, as thunder rumbled outside and the trailer's roof leaked into a tin bucket, he finally spoke. "Erica, I know I hurt you," he said, his voice low, steady, as he stood by the stove, stirring a pot of collard greens. "I was wrong to hide who I was, but I need you to hear me out, just once." She sat on the sagging couch, arms crossed, her eyes fixed on the rain streaking the window. She didn't answer, But she didn't walk away either, and that was enough for him to keep going. "I loved a woman once," Chicky began, his back to her, his shoulders tense. "Thought she loved me too. But when my money ran low, back when I was still building my business, she left me without a backward glance. Took everything I had left in my heart." He turned, his eyes meeting hers, raw with a pain she hadn't expected. "I swore I'd never let anyone fool me again. So I hid who I was, made myself look like nothing, to see who'd stay. You, Erica, you stayed. You cared for me when you thought I was broke, when you thought I was less. You're the only one who ever did." His voice softened, almost breaking. "I'm not proud of lying, but I'm not sorry I found you." Erica's throat tightened, her fingers digging into her palms. "I'm not a test, Chike," she said, her voice trembling but firm. "I'm a person. You didn't just lie. You made me feel like a fool, like my life was yours to play with." She stood, her eyes blazing through tears. "I've been pushed around, laughed at, thrown out like trash. And now you? I thought you were different." Cheeky stepped closer, but she held up a hand, stopping him. "I need time," she whispered, turning away, her heart a tangle of hurt and something softer she wasn't ready to name. For days, she wrestled with his words, replaying them against the backdrop of her life. She thought of the nights he'd wash the dishes when she was too tired to stand, the way he'd leave her the bigger share of their meager meals, his quiet laughter when she'd hum along to his tunes. Those weren't the actions of a cruel man, were they? Yet the lie stung, a reminder of all the times she'd been betrayed, by Michelle's coldness, by Sharon and Kiara's malice. But Chike's care, his steady presence, had been a lifeline in this trailer, a flicker of warmth in a world that had turned its back on her. Could she trust it? Could she trust him? One evening, as the sun dipped low, painting the trailer's walls in hues of gold, Erica made her choice. She found Chike outside, sitting on a rickety chair, staring at the horizon. "I don't forgive you because you're rich," she said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her chest. "I forgive you because I believe you meant it. Those nights you cared for me, those times you made me feel seen. That's what matters." Chike's eyes softened, a weight lifting from his shoulders. "I'll spend every day proving you didn't make a mistake," he said, his voice thick with promise. She nodded, not ready for more, but feeling, for the first time, a fragile thread of trust weaving between them. Weeks later, Cheeky pulled up to Michelle's house in a gleaming Rolls-Royce, its polished surface a stark contrast to the peeling paint of the old Atlanta street. Erica sat beside him, her heart a steady drumbeat, no longer racing with fear, but pulsing with resolve. She wore a simple dress, her hair pulled back, but there was a quiet strength in her posture, a fire in her eyes that hadn't been there before. Cheeky glanced at her, his hand resting lightly on hers. "You ready for this?" he asked, his voice calm but firm. She nodded, her jaw set. "Let's do it." They stepped out, the car door's soft thud drawing eyes from the neighbors peering through their curtains. Michelle opened the door, her face a mask of confusion that cracked into shock as she took in the car, Chike's tailored suit, and Erica standing tall beside him. Sharon and Kiara appeared behind her, their mouths dropping open, their eyes darting from the Rolls-Royce to Erica's steady gaze. "What's she doing here?" Sharon snapped, her voice sharp but unsteady, her usual bravado faltering. Kiara's hands clenched, her lips curling. "And with him? What's going on, Mommy?" Michelle's eyes narrowed, her voice cold. "Erica, what's this about?" Chike stepped forward, his presence commanding, his smile cool and deliberate. "This is my wife," he said, his arm resting lightly on Erica's back. "The only woman who chose me when I had nothing to offer but myself." He reached into his jacket, pulling out a thick envelope, and set it on the coffee table with a soft thud. "That's $100,000. Consider it a goodbye gift. Don't ever contact Erica again." The room fell silent, the air thick with disbelief. Michelle's hands trembled as she reached for the envelope, her eyes wide at the stack of crisp bills inside. Sharon's face twisted with rage, her voice rising to a screech. "You're giving her all this? For what? She's nothing." Kiara stood frozen, her eyes darting between the money and Erica, her usual smirk gone. Erica stepped forward, her voice steady, cutting through the tension like a knife. "I called this place home once," she said, her gaze locking onto Michelle's. "I loved you, all of you, like family. But you threw me away, made me feel like I was less than nothing. Now I know where I belong, and it's not here." Michelle's mouth opened, her voice faltering. "Erica, we can fix this," she stammered, clutching the envelope. "We're still family." Sharon's eyes blazed with jealousy. "You think you're better than us now just 'cause you've got money?" Kiara's voice was a whisper, almost broken. "How did she get all this?" Erica shook her head, a faint smile touching her lips. "I'm not better than you. I'm just free." She turned, Chike's hand steady on her arm, and they walked back to the car. The neighbors' whispers followed them, but Erica felt only calm, a weight lifting from her chest. As they drove away, the house on Peach Street fading in the rearview mirror, she felt no anger, no tears, just a quiet peace, like the first breath after a long dive underwater. In their new Florida mansion, with its wide windows and ocean views, Erica stood on the balcony, the breeze cool against her skin. For the first time, she felt truly wanted, not for what she could give or endure, but for who she was. Cheeky joined her, his presence a steady anchor. "You okay?" he asked softly. She nodded, her eyes on the horizon. "I'm home," she said, and meant it. Wow, what a journey. You know, when I first started writing Erica's story, I didn't expect it to hit me this hard, but it did. Because this isn't just fiction. This is the reality for so many people who are overlooked, mistreated, or underestimated, simply because of where they come from, how they look, or because they don't have anyone fighting for them. This story is about pain, yes, betrayal, injustice, loneliness. But more than that, it's about resilience, about the quiet strength of someone who's been stepped on her whole life but still manages to rise. And it's about how, sometimes, the people who love us the most are the ones who don't look perfect, who show up in the most unexpected ways. Chike's transformation isn't just about wealth or revenge, it's about honor, gratitude, and fulfilling a promise made in a burning car by a man who gave his life to save a child. Erica's victory is not in the mansion or the money, it's in reclaiming her voice, her dignity, her worth. That's what makes this story human. That's what makes it powerful. And now I want to hear from you. What did this story make you feel? Did you relate to Erica in any way? Have you ever been underestimated or found light in someone you didn't expect? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one, and I'd love to know how this story landed with you. Thank you for staying with me to the end. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one. Take care, friend.